So we're getting ready to kick off kidding season here in the next few weeks here in Southeast Indiana. So I thought that I would share what I usually keep on hand in my kidding kit. So for my kidding kit, I usually get a type of box like this that's easy to carry, that has a lid that you can pop on. Some different things that I always keep in the kit. I don't usually keep, the entire pack of these, but usually just a few. So I'll put a few puppy pads in here. We've been having a lot of triplets up to quadruplets, so probably 5 on hand. I always keep a hair dryer. We are in very, very cold temperatures, and with kids being wet, being born wet, you never want them to get frozen. So in order to eat, kids need to be warm. So I find a hair dryer to be essential. I do keep calcium on hand for my does. Not every doe will get that. That is something that I usually do keep in my kidding kit though. So uterine bolus, I don't necessarily keep this in the kidding box all the time. I do keep it on hand. I have used it several times. These are extra large boluses, so I've dissolved them in water if if you go in a lot and the doe needs to be flushed. So I usually keep at least a few gloves on hand, just to kind of keep from introducing any bacteria. I don't always, go into fish kids out, but even just, pulling on them, or if you're spraying iodine on the navel, you know how badly it stains. So having gloves on hand really does help. Lube, I have several different types. I also keep a gallon ready-made. If you are having to fish any type of kids out, you want a lot on hand. You want it easily accessible. The powder can make a lot. I don't usually use the powder. I just usually use like a ready-made. I have a gallon size as well. So I won't necessarily keep the gallon size in the box, but I do have it on hand. Dextrose solution. If you have weak kids that are too weak to drink colostrum or milk, I have used this to give them a quick pick-me-up. Dine. I find this essential for kids, especially small or weak kids. This isn't a replacement for milk, but it's an extra calorie supplement. Again, more calcium for the does. This is injectable, I believe. I have not actually used this. I usually just use the CMPK. They don't like the CMPK. It tastes bad. I believe it burns, but if you have a doe that is, not handling pregnancy or milking, when you come to like milk fever or ketosis, you want to keep that on hand. Something that I always use on my kids now is this navel care. I will spray their umbilical cords and all around the base of it when they're born. I also keep some ready-made colostrum. Hopefully you don't need it. Hopefully you can use the doe's colostrum. It is, smart to keep some on hand just in case. Bluelite to keep them drinking, to have lots of electrolytes. And then YMCP, it's like a calcium drink. I really love this. This is the second bag that I've gone through. It makes a lot. I've found that they don't really love the taste a lot. So what I've done is I've mixed molasses in. I always keep some syringes and needles. These things, for weak kids, you could use Jumpstart. All of my kids get some selenium. More electrolytes, probios. I always keep this for does. Activated clay gel. Sometimes you'll have a doe that has, loose stools after she kids. And then a drench gun. If you are using any of the calcium, of course, you're going to be using that to administer it. Bulb syringes. they're pretty cheap, so I try to buy a few new ones every year, just to suction all the mucus out of the kids' nose and mouth. I use those pretty much every single time. For my kids that are born in, January, February, even really cold days, we can get snow in April here. I will put a sweater on them if they're having trouble, keeping their body temperature up. I ordered these on Etsy. They're made for Nigerian dwarf kids. I have probably 6 of them at this point. They work really well. I wash them after each use. They've held up really, really well as well. I also keep bottles on hand. If you have kids that are not nursing, you can, milk this into the bottle and then feed them that way. Ketone strips are essential to make sure a doe is not having any trouble with like pregnancy toxemia. They do expire, and after they have been opened, I think you can only use them for 6 months. So make sure you watch the date on yours. I keep hemorrhoid cream on hand if you have a doe that's especially swollen. That works really well. Vitamin Bs for does or kids. If you do need to cut the umbilical, I usually keep scissors. Collars if you need to separate them if they are really hard to tell apart. Stomach tube kit, I've bought several of these. They're not a lot. If you find yourself needing one, having one on hand is absolutely essential. I've used them before. This one works really well. After using it, I did clean it, and then I was able to also use it to flush on a doe that we had gone in a lot, so I used it to flush her out with like an antibiotic solution. So this is like a kid resuscitation kit. I've actually never used this. My sister-in-law recommended it to me, so I do keep it on hand. I don't necessarily keep it in the box since I don't use it a lot. This is a kid weight sling. If you are looking to get a weight on your kids, you can hang that from a scale. Sometimes I just use the walk-on scale. I find that it works really easily. And then the OB sleeves. If you are going to be fishing out kids, you're going to be using a lot of them. You want a clean sleeve every time, ideally, if you're going in and fetching kids out. I also keep some alcohol wipes if you need to, wipe down like a thermometer or the scissors. So what about you? What do you keep on hand? Would love to hear any ideas that you have or any thoughts. So another item that I keep on hand in my kitting box is the Kelly's Kid Puller. This is an essential for not just me, but for many goat breeders out there. If you need to fetch any kids out, you can loop it around and then use it to help pull the kids. So it's pretty flexible. It's not really big. It can be washed and reused. So really recommend keeping one of these in your kit. So like I said, a lot of things I keep on hand. I don't necessarily keep them in the box with me. So here's what I actually have in the box. So I would keep my Kelly's Kid Puller, Bobios, the kid sweaters, a hairdryer. You can also just keep this in the barn next to an outlet where you'll be using it. Jumpstart. The YMCP, I've started giving this to almost every doe. Colostrum, your drench gun, along with the nozzle, the bulb syringe, of course the navel spray, it's mostly iodine I believe, a bottle. I really like these clear nipples. You can also just use a baby bottle if you have Nigerians. I found some of them prefer just a regular like human baby bottle. The stomach tube kit, the hemorrhoid cream, the dextrose, B12, the oral CMPK Dine puppy pads. They're really nice to have kids born right onto them. You can dispose of them. It's a nice clean surface. Selenium gel, I give that to all of my kids. The gloves, both the regular, the long and the short. The ketone strips. I'll just go ahead and keep my weight sling in here, and the lube. And then in the top, you'll have one like this. Makes it easier to store small stuff on the top. You can store like some syringes and needles, the extra O-ring for the drench gun, and your scissors.